Serving Lawrence County on AM 1370, 105.3 Lawrenceburg, and Loretto on 95.3. This is The Legend, WDXE.
That's us, WDXE, and it's time for Friends and Neighbors with yours truly, and my friend today is Mr. Randy Fowler.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, buddy. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for asking. I was just really honored to be asked to do this.
Well, I'm honored that you agreed to come. It's been exciting knowing that you're coming this morning. And you and I have developed a friendship over the last little while.
Yep.
And of course, you're not an unfamiliar name to a lot of folks around here. Now, you're a Loretta native.
We moved. We moved from the metropolis of Revelo.
Yes.
To Loretto when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
And we've been there ever since.
Well, that's part of what I wanted to do with you this morning. Of course, I've known you for a while, but getting to know you better is part of what I do here. And of course, we're going to talk about you and your life and your career. But I want to go back all the way back to like mom and dad, and tell me about your family history.
All right.
If you don't mind. Of course, I know a lot of the Loretta folks know you graduated Loretta High School.
I did.
What year did you graduate?
1985.
85.
Yeah.
85. Okay. So that means you're younger than I am.
Well, just a little. Not much. Just a little.
Come on, Randy.
Yeah, we're coming up on 40 years. You know, and I guess, if I'm just going to be full disclosure, as they say.
Yes.
I just liked high school so much that I stayed an extra year.
Did you?
Yeah, I was supposed to be an 84 model.
Yes.
But I was just
hey,
pretty silly.
I was the same way.
And wasted my time.
I was the same way and probably should have been held back, but they were so anxious to get rid of me, they just spit me right on out.
Well, but so, my class that I grew up with, 1984 class, we're having our 40th year reunion this next year.
Well, good for you.
So,
good for you.
Wow.
Well, do a little name dropping for me and tell me some of your classmates, your Loretta classmates. Who'd you go to high school with that people may know?
Oh, my.
Probably a bunch.
Yeah, well,
of course, there's some other Loretta names that are around here. People like Eddie Landtroop that nobody likes.
Yeah.
And
the guys that I grew up with, I'll just tell you that. How about that? The guys that I was close to.
Yes.
And we played music together. We started playing music together when we were kids.
Yeah.
I got my first guitar when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
And a dear friend of mine that passed. He passed away.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. He passed away earlier in the year, back in February. Curtis Hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
He and I got our guitars the same year for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And we learned to play together. We learned how to play guitar. And there's some friendly competition there, and you know how it is, but Curtis and I went to school together. Danny McGee, who just passed.
Oh yeah, just heard of his passing here recently.
And another dear lifetime,
good guy,
long time friend of mine. We grew up together. We and
he did some photography for us sometimes.
Yeah. Danny was a fantastic man, and so we grew up together. And Keith Lawson.
Oh, I know Keith. Yes.
Keith, Danny, and Curtis. Excuse me, and the guy that just left, Lonnie Box. Lonnie's older than us, but we had our first band together.
Oh, really?
Lonnie sang for us, and
really?
We played.
Oh boy!
Our very first gig was in the parking lot of Lawson's clothing store.
Oh, wow.
In
on the north up there where it used to be.
Yeah, the old store.
Yeah.
1980. We sat up in the parking lot and we played there.
Well, good for you.
Yeah. It was fun.
Good for you.
It was
I asked
fun.
you about your high school days and your playing there, but take me back to your mom and dad. Now, who were mom and dad?
My dad was Royce Fowler, and my mother was Ada Littrell Fowler.
Okay.
My mother, she grew up in the Revelo community.
Okay.
The Littrells.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jesse Littrell.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of folks know Jesse Littrell in the community. Preacher, long time preacher. About 60 years worth, I think.
Oh,
He's getting
yeah.
close to it.
Yeah.
But Jesse's my uncle, and so he and my aunt Evelyn Hughes, they're the two remaining siblings in the family.
Yeah.
And
Now,
but
did your mother work at all?
she did. Yeah, she retired from M. Fine and Sons in Loretta.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She worked there whenever it was Salant and Salant.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, she worked there 30-something years, 32, 34 years, somewhere in that neighborhood, I think.
Okay.
But, yeah, she retired from there. My dad, he was an over-the-road truck driver.
Okay.
That's all I ever knew him to do.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did he have to stay gone certain periods of time? Or?
He did, yeah. He was home most of the time. He was home on the weekends.
Yeah.
But you know, most of the time he would try to manage it to where he could leave Sunday afternoon or something, because you know he wanted to go to church. He was a Christian man. He wanted to go to church, but he would try to make it to where he could do that. But
now, was he an independent trucker, or did
well, he did have his own trucks.
Okay.
For several years. He had his own trucks during his career, but he worked for several companies around locally. He worked for Southland Express.
Okay.
You know, which was a
that was big.
long time trucking company here, and then he retired from Sharp Transport.
Okay.
And I was working there at the time whenever he retired.
Really? Okay.
He and I got to work together, but I was on the other side of the fence, I guess. I was in customer service and dispatch. And,
Okay.
And Dad drove, but he.
Now, were they both native Lawrence Countyans too?
Yes. The Fowler family, they were from the Fall River area, more in that area between Revelo and Fall River. That's where my Fowler relatives grew up. And but when my mother and Dad got married, not long after they were married, they found work down in South Alabama, around the Mobile area.
Yeah.
And so all my Fowler relatives moved down in that area, and Mom and Dad moved down there for a while.
Oh, really?
For
Okay.
a pretty good while, stayed down there, and they moved around Greensboro, Demopolis, Alabama. Okay. They would move several different times following work, but that's where my dad got into trucking.
Oh, okay.
There was a company there that he started working for. It was Hall Brothers Trucking, and that was in the mid-'50s.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Whenever he it was trucking has evolved very much from that time.
I was going to say, that's a different trucking era.
Yeah, but he would haul frozen chickens from the Greensboro, Coleman, Alabama, just in that area. They would ice them. They would put them in boxes.
Oh, really?
And they would ice those chickens because they didn't have the refrigerated units like today's. It's easy today.
Yeah.
But they would ice those chickens, and he would haul those chickens up in the Midwest area, up into Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he would
Pretty
go.
good hauls.
Yeah, and just imagine in a B-61 Mac with no sleeper on it.
No.
And he would tell me stories about just laying across the seats and taking a nap, or getting out and laying on the ground or somewhere, you know, whenever he could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
different time.
He was the toughest man I knew.
Different time altogether. Wow. So
Yeah,
when did they finally move back into the Lawrence County?
Well, just shortly before I came along.
Now you have sisters?
I have two sisters and a brother.
Two sisters and a brother.
My brother passed back in 2015.
Oh yeah.
And but I've got two sisters. They're mean. I'm telling you what, they're mean as a snake.
Now, are you the youngest, oldest? Where are you in the
Yes, as my sisters would say, he's the baby.
He's the baby.
Yeah, yeah.
So no wonder they're mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and they're here too, right?
Yes. My oldest sister, she's retired now. She retired from Walmart. Her name is Carlene Russ.
Yeah.
And my younger sister, she still works. She works at Lawson's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diane,
Well,
Diane Kelly.
Of course, I had the privilege of helping you with some selling of your folks' property.
Yes, you did.
And got to know you even more then and your family, and so I'm a little bit familiar. But getting your backstory is even good. You know, it's very good.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the work that you guys did for us on that.
It was a pleasure.
It was a tough time for us.
Yes, I'm sure, and it is. But we had a good one, and worked out good for us.
Yeah.
I think it worked for you. So anyway, so we've got you born now. We got you born there. So what was childhood like?
I was born in Columbia.
You were born in Columbia?
Fact. Yeah, they didn't want me, to be born here, apparently. So,
yeah.
I was born in Columbia, we lived on just on that same property where that you helped sell.
Yeah, right there in North Loretto.
Yeah, there was a house there just close to the railroad track, and that's where we moved. And Mom and Dad rented the place there for a little while, and then they had an opportunity to buy it, so they did.
Yeah.
And, so that's where I grew up, and
Now the train was probably a little more active back then.
Oh yeah. At least twice a day.
Yeah.
Train, and there's no telling how many railroad spikes and those big screws and all that kind of stuff that come off the railroad tracks that I've hauled on my trucks. Whenever I'd play as a kid, I'd get those things and I'd play.
Oh yeah,
we'd have all kinds of fun. Keith Lawson, he grew up right across the railroad track.
Yeah,
and so Keith and I were,
now we
were more like brothers than
was there a wrong side of tracks in Loretto?
Well, if it was, I didn't know about it.
We didn't know it, huh?
Yeah.
You hear about that, being on the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah.
But there's really not. But there's really not a wrong side in Loretto.
Yeah, apparently it is, because Keith, he's done quite well.
They're good folks.
They certainly are.
Yeah. I pick at Keith too. If I were in the store down there, of course, I visit down there every once in a while. I always get a chance to talk to him. It seems like so.
Oh yeah.
So he's got a great store. They've expanded too. Got big time up there. So
doing quite well.
We're proud for them.
Yes.
Well, so you grew up there on the railroad tracks, young kid playing with your trucks and toys, and so when you got into school, was school happy for you? Did you like school?
Oh, it was fine.
I didn't.
The older I got, the more I didn't care for it.
Yeah.
Some people are. Some people are book learners, I guess, for a lack of a better term. No, I
can't imagine you being in a trouble.
No.
So you coasted through.
Little mischief, maybe, but
yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'm more of a hands-on kind of person. If I can see it or do it, and then that's the way I seem to learn the best.
But you got interested in music at some point. When did that happen?
Well, like I said. And if I could back up a little bit there.
Yeah, please do.
Music was always at home.
Okay.
whenever I was growing up, I can't remember a time that we didn't have music at home. Nobody in my immediate family plays anything, but my mom and dad would sing, and even at church they would sing.
Oh yeah,
And so, it was always there.
Yeah.
And I remember they bought a one of those console stereos.
One of them big ones.
Yeah, didn't have the television in it. We wasn't that well off, but no, it had the record player and an 8-track player, and the tuner, where you could listen to the radio. But I remember, a lot of Southern gospel. They really liked my mom, especially, but both of them liked the Southern gospel stuff.
Oh, sure.
And the McGee Singers, the Lowell McGee Singers,
yeah.
those albums was in there. And but I also remember Charlie Pride and Porter Wagner and Merle Haggard albums.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's early memories right there.
Oh yeah.
My dad was a bluegrass lover too. He liked the Stanley Brothers and he liked Bill Monroe. And, and
we have some common ground there. My dad loved bluegrass.
Oh yeah, I remember your dad. Yeah. I played several times when Mr. Joe would dance.
Well, he loved that, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
It was good memories there. But we always had that and singing and even whenever I was a kid, when I'd get out of school, I would get in the truck and go with Daddy, wherever he was going, wherever my mom would let me go.
Oh, sure.
Sure. I would go with him and travel all over the country.
Oh, that's a good memory right there.
Oh man, I don't know how many miles I've ridden, but I've been.
That's priceless right there.
It is. It is because to have that time, just one-on-one.
Probably listen to the radio.
Oh yeah, but but a lot of times we would have the radio off.
Oh yeah.
And my daddy would sing, and
Oh boy.
and,
okay.
Yeah, I met a little girl in Knoxville. That's where I learned those songs. He would. He would sing, and I'd sing along with him. And it was just good times.
Yeah.
In the cab of that
awesome.
truck.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But
is so great.
But we would do things like that, and I just my very first. I said my first guitar I got, but my very very first guitar, little toy thing, came from Ernest Tubbs Record Shop.
Did it really?
On Broadway.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I probably wasn't. I don't know, 7, 8 years old maybe whenever I got that.
You still have that thing?
No, I wish I did.
Don't you wish you did?
I do.
Yeah.
But we went on vacation, and we went up to the mountains, and then we came back and went to Nashville. My uncle and aunt and their family came up, and we went to Nashville, and they wanted to go. And so we went to Broadway, and we went to Ernest Tubbs Record Shop. And I got a guitar there, and I loved it. I loved the thoughts of playing or just tinkering, and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I just asked, I wanted a guitar. So my first guitar that I learned to play on came from Western Auto.
Western Auto.
It was a global Western Auto store in Loretta, Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yep. Where the sports complex is out there now, south of the post office.
Yeah.
Well, that building used to be a Western Auto store.
Okay.
And so my guitar came from there, and I learned how to play on that guitar. And it was tough. It was a little junior size, or like a 3/4 size guitar.
Yeah.
But man, you're talking about the action on that thing. I mean, the strings were like, this high off the neck.
I can relate. The first guitar that I remember having that would tune and play, would actually tune and play, was an old Harmony, but it was one of those little small, quarter size or whatever they were. And the action on it was tough too. It was tough to play.
Yeah.
But that's what I started playing with.
Yeah.
Wish I still had it.
Oh yeah, me too.
Had the little white pick guard. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, mine was a sunburst. It was a sunburst guitar.
Yeah.
And it was either a tortoise or a black. I don't remember it, but I think it was actually just a black pick guard on it. But I learned how to play on that thing. And Devon Lawson, Keith's dad.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where he got them, but he got a deal on some strings. He had a big box of strings that he would sell me black diamond.
Black diamond strings.
He would sell me black diamond strings for $1 a set.
Yes,
and
indeed.
I would change my strings out on that guitar, and they were pretty much like log chains. I mean, I think that E string was about this big, But no, I mean they were a heavy string, but that's what.
But hey, that's what we had.
That's
what you had.
Yeah, that's what toughened me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, give the old calluses.
That's right. Put them calluses on your fingers.
Yeah, and after that, because I think you can still get black diamond strings, but they sound good.
Yeah.
The old black diamond strings sound good. And another place that I found them was at Holland's Drug Store.
Oh yeah.
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 I would go in there whenever and get black diamond strings there.
That's neat. That's neat. Well, you improved, I guess, a little by little.
Well, yeah, I did. I think maybe I know a few chords now, but
So what did you do after you had your guitar? You learned you played guitar obviously as a young kid and going through school, but you graduated high school eventually.
Yeah.
And did you go to work? Did you go to more school? What did you do after high school? What did you do after high school?
I started just right out of high school. I started in a factory.
Yeah. Okay.
There's
a lot of us did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted to get out of high school.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. But I met my wife in high school.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I'll tell you this right now. If it wasn't for that lady, I don't know where I'd be.
Oh. I can amen that.
Yep. And because I didn't have much of a future planned, especially. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew it involved music. I did know that.
Well, tell us who you married.
Her name is Patricia.
And where is she from?
She was born in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, really? Okay.
And they moved. Now, talk about a transition.
Yeah.
They moved from West Palm Beach to Holly Creek.
Oh.
Yeah, they bought a farm there.
Yeah.
And they moved whenever she was 4 years old.
How about that?
And so they moved there and stayed for a while there on Holly Creek, and things moved around. And her dad eventually went to work for M. Fine.
Okay.
In Loretta.
Okay.
So my mom and her dad, and then her mother, Trisha's mother, actually went to work at M. Fine as well.
Okay.
So both her parents retired there. Her dad was the shipping manager.
Okay.
Well, I say retired. He didn't retire there. He left and actually did some traveling. He went to work for Southland Express and did some expedited work for them there.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, they worked there for a long time. But her mom did retire from M. Fine. But they moved to St. Joe, and so Trish was going to school at Loretta, and Keith Lawson and we were out and about after school one day, and it was when the Quick Mart, it hadn't been there very long in Loretta.
Yeah.
There used to be an old Texaco station there.
Yes.
Mr. Ayers had
Yes.
that Texaco station. Well, the Quick Mart was there, and we were riding around, and we were going into the parking lot, and I seen this girl, and and her smile's what, hey, ooh, hey, look at her, and so that's what drove my attention. That's what caught my attention there, and so I said, I need to find out who that is.
Yeah.
So I started trying to find out, and I was going to have to be out of class for something. I was in band in high school.
Yeah.
Keith Lawson and I were both in band. We played drums. I played snare. He played they called them quints.
Yeah.
They were, they had 5 drums there.
Yeah.
So he played that. But we were going to be out of class for something, and I had an excuse, and I was going to have to get it signed by the art teacher. So I went into art class. I opened the door up. Whenever I opened the door up, there she stood.
How about that?
Yep. And so I walked in, and there she stood, and I said, "Hey," and I said, she looked at me, and I said, "Is Miss Dixon in here?" And she said, "Yeah," and I said, "I've got to see her. I've got a thing. I've got to get out of class. I've got enough to get out of class," and I don't remember exactly how it was worded. I wish I could. It's been 34 years that we've been married.
Yeah.
But I said, "Yeah, I've got a note to get out of class." And she said, "Did you say, get me out or take me out?" And so that was involved in the conversation, I know.
Yes.
So I saw the opportunity.
Yes.
And so the rest is history.
It sounds like your wife did what my wish. She set a trap for you.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what happened.
Yeah. Well, she got quite a catch. I don't know. She might want to throw it back. I'm sure it's been several times.
She didn't know what she was trapping.
She's wanting to throw that sucker back.
Yeah. So how soon after high school did you guys get married?
We dated for about 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
Around that, 4.5 years.
Okay.
We
and you were working during this time.
I did. I worked, and going back to the work thing, I worked for a guy, and his name, everybody in Loretto knew him as Peanut McIntyre.
Okay.
Marvin McIntyre. He had a casket factory.
Yeah.
They're just right across the street from, right across the highway from Subway is an old factory building there.
Yeah.
And well, that used to be Acme Metals. Whenever I was a kid, there was a factory there called Acme Metals. My dad drove a truck for them.
Okay.
But and my brother worked there. But Peanut McIntyre had a factory there whenever I was in high school.
Yeah.
And that's where I started working. And it was rough. It was hard work, hot. I worked right beside of an oven that baked the epoxy onto these lids. And then once the lids came out of that oven, they were hot. And so I would take them from there, and I would grind that epoxy off, and I had a big belt sander, and I'd sand the rest of it off. So it was tough, hot, But I stuck with it. I stayed there, and I worked. And then in the wintertime, it started getting slow, kind of, slow work. And so it was my first introduction. It was my introduction to a layoff.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So Peanut came out one morning, and he said, "Hey," he said, "things are getting kind of tough, and getting a little slow." And he said, "I think I might have to lay you off for a while."
Yeah.
Because I was the low man on the list.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think anything about it. I thought he was thinking maybe a day or two or a week. And
right.
Well, at break he came out there with my pink slip.
So he was serious.
Yeah. He said, "Here you go." I said, "Thank you." But no, that so that got me away from there, and I had an opportunity to go to work for Mr. Keith Lawson.
The heck you say?
I started working for Keith, and he had a store here in Lawrenceburg called the Sound Depot. I don't know if you remember that.
I vaguely remember that.
It was a car stereo store.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yep. And we stayed busy, man. I mean, that was during the time whenever things started breaking loose, as far as car stereo stuff and the big boom, and the woofers and
people were installing that stuff in their vehicles like crazy.
And then one of the best things that ever happened was the CD player.
Oh yeah.
So people started putting CD players in the cars, and I'll never forget. A guy came in one time, and he was talking about going over to Wayne County, and he said, and he had a CD player that we put in his car, and at that time, the first generation of CD players, you could actually get a player that was a component just by itself.
Yeah.
During the early days, you could get 8-track players or cassette players that was just separate, and you could hook them into the radio. Well, you could do the same thing with the CD player.
Yes.
Sony had components you could put you could have the tuner and the CD player and an EQ, and we could just stack them, and it looked really good in there. But Jeff said he was over in Wayne County one time, and he said he had this guy that was from over there in that area, and he said they were riding around. He had a GT Mustang, fast car,
Oh, yeah.
And so we had put that in his car, and he said the guy was in the back seat, and he said he was going to change the CD, and he said he pressed the button, and the tray came out, and that guy looked at it, and he said, "Look at there, he's got a little record player in his car."
Little record player. That's great.
Yeah, but I know I'm rambling.
Well, I'm going to steer you back into.
Okay.
You're obviously playing the guitar through all these years.
Oh yeah.
You were developing your skills and playing the guitar, because I wanted to get to that.
Yes.
At some point.
But
getting your backstory is all interesting, because you've named a lot of stores and places that we're familiar with and know. And we may have somebody that wants to talk with us.
Oh boy.
You never know. Let's see who this is.
Scary.
Hey, good morning. You're on WDXE with us. Nope. That wasn't what they wanted.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
Anyway, you were playing your guitar, I'm sure, through all this. I wanted to kind of back up. We talked about your first guitar, but you obviously got progressed and got some other guitars, I'm sure. So maybe we'll find out what you next and better guitars.
Okay.
Hey, good morning. You're on WDXE with us.
Yes, this is David Scott. I want to brag on Randy Fowler. Anybody that can write a song from Florence to Loretta and not just write an average song, it was a wonderful song. Heavenly Home.
Heavenly Home. Hey,
needs to be bragged on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I want to thank him for his friendship.
Thank you, David.
He's one good guy.
Thank you so much.
David, thanks for the call, buddy.
All right. Talk to you later.
Very good.
Checks
David
in the mail.
Scott right there. How about checks in the mail? Yeah, he's a singer player too.
He is.
That's
yeah,
right.
He's a fantastic guy.
So you graduated up. You probably found some better guitars. When looking back at it, your first guitar that would be more on a professional level?
Oh yeah.
What did you?
It was a Yamaha, and it came from Welch's Furniture Store.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, on the square.
That was a step up.
It was. I mean, it was. Yamaha is. Especially then, but they still make a good product.
They do.
It was a 335 Yamaha acoustic guitar, very good guitar. But I played that and I kept it for a long time. But I wanted an electric guitar.
Yeah.
And so I was in high school, and we were talking about. Class rings, and things like that, and I was talking about guitars too. And my mother said, "Well," she said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. She said, you can either have a class ring or you can have a guitar.
There you go.
Guess which one I got?
Well, you got your guitar.
Yeah. I got a Peavey T25 Special. That was the model. T25 Special. It's an electric guitar. They, Peavey was they were the thing back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, they were a good.
They're great guitars, and they had they had an adjustment on the neck, and you could tilt the neck and get a really good sweet action on that guitar, where it would play so good.
Yeah.
But that guitar came from Forbes Music Store in Florence.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a great guitar. There was a guy down there in Florence area. His name was Lanky York. Lanky played a lot of the bluegrass festivals, and Lanky was a slap guitar player. He was a fantastic rhythm guitar player. You could sit and just watch him, and he was like Ranger Doug from Riders in the Sky.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the style that he played. Every time he hit he stroked that guitar, it was a different chord. He was just playing all over the neck.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he was so good, but he wanted that guitar too. But I got there first. So, and he every time I saw him, he would never let me forget that. You got my guitar. I think he just did it, just to aggravate me a little bit too. But
sure.
He loved that. But that was my first electric guitar.
Wow.
And spent a lot of time in my room learning. At the time. I was just a huge Leonard Skinner fan.
Oh yeah.
And
me too.
So I spent a lot of time learning that stuff and learning how it sounded and learning the scales, learning how to play things like that. And so I think that was a pivotal time, I guess, in my learning how to play in that style and that kind of music.
So you started. Now, when did you actually get the opportunity to play on kind of a professional level? Because you have.
Yeah, there's a band that I have been a part of since 2000. A full-time member of the band, and it's in the Shoals area. It's called Showdown.
Yeah.
And we've played down there in the North Alabama area. Like I say, I've been a part of it for the past 23 years.
Oh wow.
But the Showdown band was long before then. A guy named Harold Willis. Harold and Billy Sue Willis, they started this show in Tuscumbia back in the 70s. It was called the Hayloft Opry.
Okay.
And it was a professional show. They would have a weekly show. They did this every week. But they had Opry stars to come down, and they would be a part of the show at different times. And Steve Warren was one of the ones, and I think little Jimmy Dickens came down, and different ones they would have down there on the show. And then it was a professional, it was a business. I guess I should say it was a business because they had their own building, they did their own concessions. It was a good show. But then things happened, and it went away. But the band still played, but the show kind of went away.
Okay.
And then back in the 80s, they started up another show. It was called the Country Shindig. And they did it at the Ritz Theater in Sheffield.
Okay.
Well, about 1998, a friend of mine named Keith Davis, fantastic drummer, he he and I had been playing music. We we met because of my wife and her best friend, Keith. We met through that. But Keith, he told me, he said, I'm going to audition for this band down in Muscle Shoals. It's called the band's called Showdown.
Yeah.
And they do this show. You know, he's telling me about it, and he was pretty nervous about it, you know, because they did it monthly. But he said, man, they know so many songs, and he said they're great. And we went to see them, and they were a good band. And so he said, I'm going to audition. And he said, I don't know if I'll get it or not, but he said, I'm going to try it. And I said, all right. And I said, but if you get on, I said, you're going to have to get me on too. You know, get me on for a guest spot, because they would have guests, you know, come on.
Yeah. And
so he auditioned, and he got the job. And so shortly after that, not too long after that, he was able to get me a spot, you know, to where I could do a song with him.
Okay.
And so I did, and then one thing led to another, and I would start filling in for their guitar player. And then in 2000, I was able to be the permanent guy.
The guitar player, yeah.
And they hadn't been able to get rid of me since. But we used to do that show. We continued that show, the Country Shindig, on up into, I think it was 2012, somewhere in that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Whenever we did our last Country Shindig show as a regular thing. But yeah, I've been a part of that band and playing around, you know, for.
What about recording? Have you done recording much?
Yes, there's a dear friend of mine that we've written several songs together. His name is Mike Owens.
Mike Owens.
Yeah, Mike. He's from Hatton, Alabama.
Okay.
Mike's a fantastic songwriter. I call him a wordsmith. He's you know, he can put the words together. But the thing is, I guess, you know, what's kind of made it a good thing for Mike and I to work together is Mike don't play an instrument, you know.
Oh, okay.
He can sing, but he don't play anything. So Mike can write, and he'll get some lyrics together, and then he and I will, you know, we'll get together and we'll work out an arrangement for music.
Right.
And then, you know, I get to throw my 2 cents in on some lyrics every once in a while, but mainly, you know, Mike's the lyricist, and then I'll get the help with the melody and things. And but we've had some success on the country gospel side. You know, we've had some #1 songs.
Well, I want you to name drop some of those songs, because a lot of people here will probably know or recognize some of the songs.
Well, you know, we've. I don't know. I can't think of anything right off. I mean, I really can't. I'm sorry. But I know if Mike was here, he could name them right off.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm terrible like that. But
well, that's okay.
We've had several that we've had to chart and to stay on. We've had one that comes to mind. That it was and there was a band called the Reed Brothers. They're from Mississippi. Yeah. And they had a song called "Not If He's Like You," and it tells a story about a little boy. It's a sad story, but it tells the story about whenever this little boy gets cancer. It's terminal.
Yeah.
And his dad said, you know, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, let's see if somebody may chime in on this. Hey, good morning. You're on WDXE with us.
Yeah, this gentleman you got on the air with you there today, with everything he's done, he's got to be right at about 100 years old, hasn't he?
He probably is. You recognize this voice?
I do. I'm afraid I do.
Big D, you know this man?
Yeah, I knew. I've been knowing him a pretty good while.
Yeah, me and him, we went to two different schools
You see him
together.
walk around the square with a guitar on his back. No, that was Paul Wilcoxon. That wasn't you, was it?
Yeah, that's some other life. That's some other life you're
Everybody's
thinking
trying
about.
to play. No, I
deal.
enjoyed the show. He's a good fellow there.
Hey, man, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. I
Y'all
appreciate
have a
it.
good time.
See
See ya.
Very good. Yeah, I didn't tell you, but we do invite phone calls on this, so it happens.
Well.
we have them. Well, anyway, I guess I'm getting to another kind of steering this into the fact you did some recordings, you did some writing, and you're a electric guitar lead guitar. And
Yes.
The last time I actually saw you on stage was when you were playing with the Elvis tribute guy
Yep.
down at Keystone.
Yes.
And y'all played there. You played down at UNA some with him and others.
Yeah, I work with a couple of different guys that does Elvis impersonations. Mike Adams, he's from Florence, and I've been working with him for probably about 3 or 4 years now. Mike's a great guy, does a great job with that, and we've, as a matter of fact, Friday night it's a private thing down at Turtle Point in Killen.
Oh yeah.
We're
This
playing
Friday night?
This coming Friday night,
Yeah.
we're doing a show down there at the country club for at Turtle Point.
How about that?
With Mike? Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But got into doing some work because of with Mike because of another guy that I work with. His name is Michael Dean,
Yeah.
and he's from Decatur.
Okay.
And he's got a band called Michael Dean in Memphis.
Okay.
And Michael's been at it for years. And he's performed in Vegas and just throughout the country. He's
Yeah.
done the Elvis stuff.
Yeah.
And I worked a thing with him about 2 or 3 weeks ago down in Jasper, Alabama.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of fun. I just got back in June. I don't think I've showed it to you. I don't know.
No.
I got a Paisley guitar like James Burton's.
Do you really?
I do.
I gotta
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
Speaking of that, you and I have a mutual friend in James Gordon Freeze.
Yes.
And
yes.
before today, I heard from you and him. You had been to the Opry with him.
I did. I went this past Saturday with him.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. It was
Now, were you playing up there at all, or just
no,
Okay.
no, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I want to preface that.
Yeah.
No, but we had. We always have a great time. I love James. He's a dear friend, and he's helped me so much.
Yeah, good guy.
Yes,
super
he
guy.
is. He has allowed me to do work in the studio, to do a lot of demos
Yeah.
for different people. Mike Owens especially. I don't know how many songs we've done for Mike, but we always have a good time. If you don't have a good time whenever you're hanging around James, something's wrong.
Oh, that's true.
And you talking about a guy that can tell some stories.
Story after story.
Yeah.
He and I could never get through talking, and I don't think you and I could either. I don't think we could either.
Yeah, but we had a great time. I got to see Mr. Gruen Saturday night.
Yeah.
So I know that you got your prize.
Yeah, I started to bring that guitar today.
Yeah,
I started
yeah.
to bring it today, but I didn't. I started to bring it to show it to you, but yeah, you met Mr. Gruen, so
Yeah.
George Gruen.
Yeah, he hangs around at the Opry. He
Does
comes.
he go just about every Saturday?
Just about. I think just probably every time I've been up there, I seem to see him there, and
Yeah.
he brings guitars, and he'll let.
Oh, yeah.
He'll let Mike play them.
Well, that's his business.
Yeah, Mike. No, Mike. I can't think of his last name. No, Mike Noel. No, I can't think of his last name. He is the utility guy on the Opry. He plays rhythm guitar, and he'll play tic tac guitar, and he'll play banjo and different things. Mike plays.
So he's just one of the standard musicians.
Oh yeah,
for the Opry.
he's a staff musician. Yeah. He sets. If you're watching television and you're looking at the stage, you see the drummer. Well, Mike sits just to the left of the drummer. And most of the time he'll be there.
Yeah.
But Mr. Gruen will bring different guitars and let Mike play them and give his opinion.
Now I know, but before I even ask this, you've been to Gruen Guitars.
Oh yeah.
Have you been upstairs?
I have. You know what? I haven't been to the new store yet.
Have you not been to the new store?
I've not.
Well, the new store, of course, they've got an upstairs.
Yes.
And
he had one at the old store too.
Well, I guess so. I think I only was at the old store one time. It was been many, many years ago. So I never was upstairs at the old store. But I went. Me and Daniel were up there one year, and it's been a year or two ago, I guess. And we went upstairs, and Mr. Gruen was there, and he talked with Daniel and took him into his office and showed him all his reptiles.
Oh yeah,
and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But Mr. Gruen is certainly an interesting person to talk to.
He was very pleasant, and got one of the snakes out and handed it to Daniel, and I kept my distance.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
But getting back to James too. We. I attribute a lot of the things that I've got to do professionally to James.
Oh yeah.
Because of the opportunities that he's given me to do what I can do, and to be introduced to the studio, and that's a different animal there.
It is a different animal.
I mean, because
you know what strikes me about you and him and people that do what you guys do in the music world, you started young. He did. You did.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of years of dedication and practice to develop the skills. And now some people have it. It seems like so easy and so natural.
Yep.
And you do too. You do have that ease and natural, but you had to work at it.
Oh yeah, I still have to. I mean, let me tell you, I still have to.
Do you still exercise and practice and exercise?
Oh well, I don't practice as much as I need to. I'll say
none
that.
Of us do.
But that job thing gets in the way. I tell people I do carpentry work to support my habit. But
I didn't even ask you about that today, but you do carpentry work, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's a skill as well. To be able to do that kind of work.
I enjoy it. Yeah.
Like
especially
building things.
the finished product.
Oh, yeah.
You can think through the process and see the whole thing, unveil, and it's a rewarding thing,
Yeah, very rewarding, and like music.
It is, yeah, and that's the thing. I've talked so many times about seeing, or actually seeing it done, but if anybody's, if they haven't been to a studio and been a part of a recording session, or to see a recording session take place, those guys that do that for a living every day, you walk in and you've got a CD with a scratch demo, like somebody playing a guitar and singing. That's what I will, that's what I give to James.
Right.
I'll give him a CD and I'm just playing guitar and singing, and it's got songs on it, and then we'll write a chart. James usually he'll write the charts, and it's a Nashville number system, and that's what those guys use.
Yeah.
And it's just 1 through 7, and there's there's cymbals and sharps and flats and different things that can be added to that, but it's 7 numbers. And those guys will listen to that one time. Most of the time, it's just once. They might go back and listen to something just a little bit for a second time, but they'll listen to that and they'll look at that chart while they're listening, and then they'll say, you know, let's cut this watermelon. That's what, you know, they'll and
that's amazing.
And whenever they start, you know, it sounds like it's a CD almost. You know,
it's amazing.
And it's just and it's just amazing to hear it and to watch the song be born. I'm
looking forward to that experience. James has promised me a visit to the studio, so I'm going to hold him to it.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, we have ran completely out of time.
I know. I can't believe I've talked for an hour.
You know, I'd like to have you and James in both at the same time one day.
Oh boy, that would be fun.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Hey, buddy, God bless. Okay, we'll have you back.
Thank you.
Because we didn't get through.
Yeah,
we probably never get through. We'll try next time. We'll bring the guitars.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
man.
that'd be fun.
Hey, buddy, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Went on the evacuation corridors Monday, 5,000. Yesterday, 15,000.
Fox's Mike Tobin. Ivanka Trump is about to take the witness stand in